Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Boyos Discuss, the podcast where we pick a topic and then shoot the shit about it for a while. This week we're going to be talking about episode 5 of Shenmue the Animation, which is titled Equal. If you'd like to check out the anime, then you can watch the English dub on Toonami, or the Japanese dub with English subtitles on Crunchyroll. We're also going to talk a bit about Shenmue the movie, and sort of compare and contrast them a little bit with the show now that we've wrapped up the Yokosuka part of the story. So with that out of the way, I'm Matthew, and I'm joined by my co-host Ben. How's it going?
Hello.
So before we get things started, I figured it's worth mentioning that there are going to be spoilers for the anime and the game, so consider this your spoiler warning. So, we open with Ryo and Guizhang, who are redoing the battle, basically, that we got at the end of the last episode.
Yeah, that's lame. I fucking hate when shows do that.
They do that in anime a lot.
I know, and I hate it. That's why I stopped watching Naruto. Like, I got to the Great Ninja War or whatever, and I was in Shippuden and 400 episodes in, and I was already kind of like, all right, I'm 400 episodes in, I'm getting tired of this. And then it was just like, every episode was a recap. Yeah. Every single one.
Yeah.
Well,
and it's just interesting because they have a limited budget with this show, clearly, and that's what they sort of decided to focus on. You know, it's like, and we'll get to it later, like, I feel like they could have stretched the budget a bit more if they had done things a little differently, but we'll sort of get into that when that's relevant. But yeah, we open on that fight, and the goons are all watching. One of them says, that's legit, and it's like, that feels weirdly modern, but you know, like, whatever. And it's, you know, sort of like we were saying, it's weird that they're showing this again, but it is what it is. From there, we go over to Goro, who is out in the harbor, and he's taking a piss into the harbor by that little message board on the ground with the chalk. He sees that Warehouse 17 is written on there, and he freaks the fuck out. And it turns out that it was Ryo who wrote Warehouse 17 on the ground. Like, yeah. They didn't really make that clear.
It kind of looked like the last episode. Like, I almost understood that he drew 17 with his foot, but they didn't do a good enough job of showing that. He just kind of like moved his foot. Yeah. And then 17 was there. So I didn't know if he was covering it up or if he was like, oh, shit. Or
my whole thing was like, yeah, based on his reaction to it, I thought that he saw someone else had written it and was like, well, shit.
Yeah, if you listen to us talk about the last episode last week, we talk about how it was like, we didn't really know what happened there either. We were just like, oh, man. Yeah. I don't know. That was weird.
Yeah.
Didn't understand what they were trying to do.
But this is the first instance in the episode where piss is involved for some reason. So, like, Goro freaks out because he sees this Warehouse 17. He gets some piss on himself. Because that's necessary. Like, that's a detail we needed to know. Yeah. So after that, Goro's like, okay, I guess I better check out Warehouse 17. So he goes over there, and he sees Nozomi. He recognizes her from the flower shop in the previous episode. He sees that she's all captured, and he's like, well, shit, we gotta, like, you know, rescue her to help out Ryo. And two of the goons are just sort of chilling in there, talking extremely loudly, and they're like, yeah, the plan is that, like, they're just going to tire each other out.
Can you believe this plan that our master laid out, and I'm going to tell you what the plan is right now? Wow, what a good plan.
Hopefully no one is listening within
No, don't worry
earshot.
about that. It never works like that.
So he hears that, and he freaks out. He goes over to the cafeteria where Mai is, and he tells her what's going on, and she smacks him upside the head, as is pretty...
Yeah, it's the first of many beatdowns this episode. She fucking abuses the shit out of Goro. It's kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like, the first time, you're like, ha, and then she just hits him every time he talks. I'm like, oh my god.
But from there, he's like, yeah, we need to, like, call the cops so they can come and help out. And she says that they won't believe him because he's a deadbeat. And, you know...
Not only is she physically abusive, she's verbally and mentally abusive. Goro, like, deserves better.
Honestly, you're not wrong. But my whole thing
was... He's an idiot, though.
Yeah. I really wish that they had done, like, a slightly different angle with why the cops wouldn't have helped. Because in the game... No one wants to mention the Mad Angels. Like, they're like, you don't mention them around here. Like, you're gonna bring shit on us if you do.
You could even do, like, the cops are involved or something.
Yeah, like, that's sort of what I wish they had done. Like, they don't want to get involved with that because they know they're too, like, entrenched.
Yeah,
there.
or we don't know that the cops aren't paid off by the Mad Angels.
Exactly, yeah.
I don't know.
That would have been a cooler angle to sort of take it, but instead we're like, nah, he deadbeat. Don't listen to him. So Mai, she comes up with her own plan, and she runs off. She goes over to the forklifts at the Alpha Trading Company, and she's like, yeah, we'll use this to save her. And Mark shows up from the shadows, and he's just like, hello.
Yeah.
And he's super confused. He's like, aren't you Rio's friends? And so we go back over from that scene to Rio and Guizhang. They're continuing their fight. And we catch up to the point where we were at in the previous episode where they knock each other out with the swallow dive. And Terry's all like, yeah, Yokosuka's mine now. So he was real happy about that. And then from there we go back to Mai and all them at the forklift. And Mark is like, yeah, I can't let y'all do that. It's too dangerous because y'all don't know how to drive it. So instead, I'll be the one who drives it. So he does that, and they take it to Warehouse 17, and it says, like, there's a sign that says safety first, and then immediately you start hearing something slamming into the door of the warehouse.
My man knows how to make an entrance. It's like WWE.
He slams the door down with the forklift, nearly impales the two goons who are, like, guarding Nozomi or whatever.
He must have missed him.
Yeah.
Damn it, I only got the space between them.
Yeah, his insatiable bloodlust. He's like, damn. But instead he sort of like catches them between the, like, I don't know, forks of the forklift.
Yeah.
And it freaks the goons out so much that they piss their pants.
Yep. Which is like, they save the girl, and they're like, all right, let's go get Rio, and then it goes back to the goons. Yeah, they like
zoom down on
and
like
show that they pissed themselves, and it's like, why? That was weird. They're like unconscious too. It's not like they're like, oh man, and it's not like funny. It's just like, oh,
yikes,
cool.
So from there, yeah, they free Nozomi, and they all escape on the forklift together, and they're starting to head towards the harbor's exit, and they see Rio and Guizhang knocked out cold on the ground, and they stop to check out what's happening. Of course, Goro is like, yeah, bro! And he freaks out. From
That's
there,
the love of my life over there getting beaten up.
And then Mai beats the shit out of him again. She's like, of course he's all right. Oh, no, we get to that in a second.
Did I tell you about revealing your sexuality, Goro?
From there, though, one of Terry's goons basically takes a baseball bat and tries knocking out Rio now that he's on the ground, but turns out it was all a ruse. And basically they reveal that during the fight, Rio had basically whispered to Guizhang that it was a trap, and so they basically pulled their, the swallow dive to make it look like they hit each other, but they actually didn't, which this is sort of like a big difference in the game, because they're fighting for real in the game, and I think it's a lot more tense because then when fucking Terry tries to take a lead pipe with concrete on the end of it and bludgeon Rio's head, it's like, oh, we need to actually team up because Terry went back on his word, and they're like, okay, we'll team up for this. And then we'll
just like, it's such a stupid fucking plan. Like, that all this would come together like this, where it's like, oh, I will write 17 on the dock, and see then when Goro pisses, he'll see that, and then he'll know to go rescue the girl. And like, you count on. There's a lot of moving parts, and like, I don't even understand the time frame that this is happening in.
Yeah,
because like, he writes the number, and then they take him to go to this fight, and as they're fighting, like, there's so many things that Goro and Mai and all them have to do. Like, is Mai at the docks?
So she works there. She works in like the cafeteria.
So they went there, found Mark,
and
then they go.
That's my biggest
all while
problem.
They're fighting.
Yeah, and like, I really don't like that we're bouncing back and forth between this like A and B plot thing. I think that takes agency away from Rio as a character, and sort of like, when you have, and granted, I get why they did it. They wanted to have his friends be more involved in the story, but also like at the expense of focusing on Rio and like his battle that he's having. It just seems like a really weird decision. And
it's bad. Like, it bothers me in animes when it's like that, and they always do that shit where there's a really big battle happening, and they're like, what's going on with this character? And it's like, I don't give a fuck what's going on with that character. I'm here to watch that, and you know that I'm here to watch that. Just like, we're trying to draw it out, so here's some goofy piss play, and it's like, no, I don't want this.
So from there, Rio, after they are like, yeah, we tricked y'all, he tells all of his friends that they should get out of here because things are going to get real rough. And so they all leave together on the forklift. And Terry tells some of his goons to, like, go after them. But that goes absolutely nowhere.
No one
chases them. And in the game, there are goons who have motorcycles, like multiple of them. So I almost wish that, like, if we have to do something with them, have one goon chase them on the motorcycle or something. And then, I don't know, they pull some maneuver because Mark knows his way around the harbor and the goon falls off or something.
Yeah, he can even go like, oh, I know how to drive these babies. We do races.
Yeah.
And you can be like, hey, the game did that.
It's like just giving any sort of, like, tension to them escaping instead of them just being like, okay, we're gonna leave.
All right, everybody get out of the school bus.
Honestly, like, that's how it feels. But so they're heading off on the forklift, and 9 minutes into this episode, we finally get to the 70-man battle, and it is underwhelming.
I think it's like the 12-man battle.
Honestly, like, they steamroll a gang of 70 people. And because of that, there's, like, no tension with the fight at all. Like, I don't think at any point, like, in the game, the whole thing that makes it difficult is that, like, on a one-on-one, like, in a one-on-one battle, Rio would cream any of these people. What makes them a threat is that there's so fucking many of them, and they've just tired each other out, Rio and Guizhang, by fighting each other. And so we don't really get that sense of tension. We don't see any of the Mad Angel lieutenants. Like, there's that guy with the pipe in the game, and then there's that, like, huge ripped dude with, like, the chaps on. He's not in here. And even if they had been included, like, for a brief one-on-one thing, like him and the big dude, that would have been like, okay, they're in some amount of danger. But as it sort of stands in this, they just steamroll them.
And it's bizarre because, like, this show had actually done a really good job of the fighting. Like, with the beginning with Landi, with Rio and Guizhang's fights through the other episodes, even Rio at, like, the bars and shit. Like, it wouldn't just do these still frames of goons flying backwards with Rio with his fist up, like, oh, wow.
Yeah, where it's just a still frame and it's, like, panning up on it. It's like,
we never got that before in this anime, and so when it's happening here, it's very weird. It's just like, huh? Did they not? Are they pulling an Evangelion? They can't afford to animate anymore. Like, what happened?
Yeah, I mean, it is unfortunate, and that's sort of what we were talking about earlier. Like, it's weird that they focused on retelling the fight with Guizhang when instead they could have possibly used that time and budget to make the 70-man battle a little more interesting.
Yeah, that wasn't... I wouldn't look at the Shenmue story and look at that and go like, we could change that. That's kind of problematic. It's like, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
It works perfectly fine.
So from there, Nozomi and all of the others, they arrive at the harbor entrance and immediately are like, yeah, we should go back. We gotta make sure Rio's okay.
Oh my God.
And that just raises the whole question of why that was even necessary.
Right.
Like, I don't really understand why we even needed that, like, story beat. Like, they could have just as easily been on the other side of the harbor, because they were far away when they saw Rio and Guizhang.
Literally, they do nothing. Like, they saved Nozomi, sure, but, like, why did she even need to be saved?
Yeah. Like, and that's the whole thing, is I think having Rio be the one that saves her makes it more impactful for him as, like, a character. But, what do I know?
Maybe even just have, like, if you really want to put Goro or Mark in it, last episode when they're like, hey, fight Guizhang and we'll let your girlfriend go. Be like, all right. And then you can have her and it's like, okay, go find this guy. He'll bring you to safety. I gotta stay and do what I said I would do. And, here's a kiss on the forehead. Goodbye. Fuck off.
Yeah.
And then you could just spend this episode with them. Like, all the B-plot characters that are in this do nothing, and shouldn't have been in it.
Yeah, honestly. From there, though, now that the Mad Angels are done, the whole 70-man battle's done, Guizhang has a one-on-one fight with Terry, and even though Terry's fighting dirty with the baseball bat, Guizhang still manages to kick his ass, which that's how it goes in the game, pretty much. But Terry warns Rio about Lan Di, and he's like, yeah, you shouldn't go to Hong Kong. Like, if you think beating us was anything, then these goons whose silhouettes we have.
Yeah, I'm the worst. I still suck my thumb, kid. All right.
So we see the silhouettes of some other goons. Will they be making appearances in the future? Who knows? And I do think that in the game they handle Terry a lot better, just because like the whole sort of dynamic between the Mad Angels and the Chiyu Men, they don't really elaborate on it much in the anime, whereas in the game they really sort of like flesh that out and like are saying like, yeah, they're the ones who brought Lan Di here, they're having this deal and Lan Di's involved, and that's why Rio wants to investigate that.
I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like in the anime I completely forgot why the Mad Angels are even important.
Yeah,
like I forget why Rio even needed to confront them or anything.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a weird sort of decision, and I do think that Terry's line that he says at the end of his like part in the game, where he's like, "Yeah, Lan Di already headed to Hong Kong. Guess you better start swimming." And then Rio gets so mad at that he like fucking backhands him with a punch.
Hell yeah!
And it's like, my guy. From there though, after that battle, Guizhang is like, okay, Rio, you know, you're a pretty cool dude. I'll convince my father to help you get to Hong Kong. And Goro, Nozomi, Mai, and Mark all show up, and they talk for a little bit. Again, we get another scene where Mai beats the shit out of Goro because he's like talking or something. And, you know, it's just one of those things where she's trying to get them to have some alone time together sort of thing.
So she can just beat him more?
I mean, that's just, you know, that's what she does.
It's hard to watch. My heart goes out to him.
So from there, yeah.
I hope you know I wouldn't let a woman do that to you, Matthew. I'd be like, whoa, that's not cool.
She's scary though. Like, if I was dating someone that's scary.
With you? Like, both of you.
So from there, Rio takes Nozomi home on the motorcycle, and turns out she overheard Rio and Guizhang talking about him going to Hong Kong. And it sort of makes it so she changes her mind, I guess, about what she was going to say. So, like, while they're on the motorcycle, Rio's like, oh, yeah, what about that advice, BT dubs, from, like, 2 episodes ago? And she's like, don't worry about it.
I like that, because she overhears him like, yeah, I'm going to Hong Kong. And she's like, but I wanted his penis here. And so now she's all upset about it. So she's like, no, I must let him go like a butterfly in the wind. So I like that.
I will say though, why in the fuck did we not use that fucking pop song while they're on the motorcycle? Wish is so damn good.
That's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, you already had the song, and clearly they still have the rights to the song because it was still in the re-release of the game. So I'm like,
I think it'd be a nice moment, like it's even kind of backwards in the game too. I think if you did that 70-man fight, you did the giant action scene, and then you have that like
follow up with the motorcycle.
Yeah, the denouement or whatever the word is.
Yeah, the chill sort of like
it's coming down off of that, and then you're like taking a minute, and you're like realizing that the adventure's like over. You're like, oh, pretty soon we're not gonna see this ever again, this place or these people, and it's kind of sad.
Yeah. But from there, a few days later, you know, so we have another sort of time skip thing that happens. Rio goes to the harbor and he quits his job, says goodbye to Mark, and outside of the Alpha Trading Company, we catch up with Goro and Mai, who tell him that they're getting married. And it's like, oh no, Goro, like, why did you agree to that? So in the game, it's a little different. Like, Rio doesn't quit the job, he's actually fired because he's in all these fights with the Mad Angels, and like the foreman of the Alpha Trading Company is like, hey, you're gonna like endanger my other employees, like by you being involved with them. Like we can't have you work for us anymore, basically. And Rio's like, well, shit.
It's very practical.
Yeah. I mean, he still does the whole thing where he's like, thank you, like, even though I only worked here for a little bit.
He's like, look, just get out of here.
Yeah. So from there, we jump back from the harbor to the dojo for some reason, which feels a little like, I feel like these should have been swapped around maybe. But we go back to the dojo, and we have basically it's, where am I here? He says goodbye to Ine-san and Fuku-san, and he vows that he's going to find the truth about his father. And this is another sort of weird change that I'm curious to see how they are going to deal with it in the anime, because in the game it's all about getting revenge, and like that's his motivation, and that's a big part of his growth as a character in the second game especially. You have a lot of people throughout that story who are like, hey, you shouldn't waste your life on revenge. Like, martial arts is meant for protecting people and protecting yourself, not murdering people, and you're sort of going down a path that's just going to continuously be a cycle of revenge if you keep doing this. So it's going to be sort of interesting to see, especially with Master Tao going forward, how they sort of deal with that, I guess. But that's something that we'll have to sort of go into in the future. But after that, we have him going on his way to the harbor, and Nozomi is just creeping again, as she does.
Yeah.
And she notices him and gives him this good luck charm. And that's something that happens in the game. I do prefer how it happens in the game, because she's praying at this like altar that's near both of their houses, and he has to pass by that altar to get to the harbor. And so he sees her there, and he's like, hey, what's going on, And she's like, yeah, I've been like praying on this amulet that it would help you, and then you show up. Like, it's sort of a weird coincidence.
I'm so glad I could give you this.
Yeah, and so I don't know. I like that it's more almost coincidental, them like being able to see each other again. Whereas in this, it's like she was just creeping by the park. Ryo-chan.
She's like Hinata.
Yeah.
With Naruto. She's just like, Ryo-san. And just like has no fucking depth at all. It's just like a typical, like, you could have made a female character interesting, and it's just like, no. She just thirsts, and that's all she does the whole time.
Yeah, and it's like they sort of try to give her some things to do with the whole, her trying to investigate the Mad Angels, the previous episode, but like, I just don't think it was really necessary for the character. Like, I feel like her being more open with her feelings like she is in the game is more to the character's benefit in the game, because it makes her, I don't know, a little more dynamic in that she is willing to open up to Ryo, even though he's basically a block of wood.
Right, and it's just so unrealistic, and it takes me out of it when they just make these women or female characters with a guy who doesn't reciprocate anything. Just like drop it. It's like, I would give my life for you. It's like, what? No, you wouldn't. You're 18. You're going to college. Your parents are doing this. Like, you have Canada. You have all this stuff going on in your life. Why do you give a fuck about this martial artist guy in a leather jacket? I know he's a bad boy. Fine. He can be hot. And you can go, he's hot. I want to be with him. But that's not your entire fucking being.
From there, though, she sheds some tears, and it's like, oh, so sad. But we go to the harbor, and we have Master Chen and Guizhang. They're hanging out there, and Ryo meets up with them. Turns out Guizhang is going to go with Ryo to Hong Kong, and Master Chen is like, yeah, we want to keep tabs on the Chiyu men, so I think it'd be a good idea if he goes with you. And so he's like, okay, what's your plan when you get to Hong Kong? And Ryo's like, well, I'll find Yonda Zhu. And Master Chen is like, bitch.
Who?
Yeah, basically. He's like, I don't know where he is. You're going to have to figure something else out. He's like,
you're going to have to ask every store owner in Hong Kong.
Every person in Hong Kong.
Do you know where I can find Yonda Zhu?
Who? But instead, he's like, hey, here's an introduction letter for someone who you can trust. They don't actually say that it's Master Tao in the anime, which is I don't know if they're just like, oh, it's a mystery who he's going to be introduced to. But he gives him that letter of introduction, and he's like, okay, we'll go on our way now. But who shows up? Fucking Chai. And he kicks down a bunch of pipes, and Guizhang, he kicks them out of the way in order to prevent them from all getting crushed by those big old pipes. And it sort of causes his leg to bleed. I don't really know why.
I think it just fell on his legs.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. It's a lot cooler in the game. He like kicks a fucking like metal beam out of the way and
like a fucking steel girder.
Yes, a steel girder. And this is like a little metal pipe.
Yeah, they were hollow.
Yeah. I don't know if pipes are like real heavy. It was a big pipe. I'll give him that, but also like why is your leg bleeding?
Yeah.
It's just weird.
Don't you like punch breaks or something? Is that part of like martial arts? You're supposed to have real tough real tough appendages.
Appendages. But his leg is all hobbly now, and so Ryo, he has his rematch with Chai, and it's weird because Chai comments on how Ryo is stronger, which really doesn't make any sense because in their previous fight, Ryo beat him.
That's what I'm saying. Why did this anime do that? Why couldn't he lose to Chai in the first episode? Yeah. That would have just made so much more sense thematically and narrative-wise.
Yeah, and then, you have him getting taught moves, even though it's just 2 in the anime. Like, he gets
And he only uses 1.
But, he grows as a martial artist, even if it's just 2 moves.
Mm-hmm. And he fights and blah, blah, he practices,
he's getting into fights.
Spars.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't know, it's just a weird decision to have him say that. So he beats Chai again, and he knocks him into the harbor with the swallow dive, since they just fucking love that move for some reason. And it's a shame because he has so many cool moves. Like, we watched the movie, he's pulling all these crazy throw moves and stuff.
My favorite, he laid down and scissor kicked a guy to the floor. I was like, whoa.
It's that stuff is badass, and we don't see any of it.
Yeah.
They beat, and this was something I didn't mention in the 70-man battle. In this, they knock out 12 goons with a single swallow dive kick.
Yes.
And it's why?
I know, it does that thing where it's the big sound blast effect.
Yeah.
And then the shake the camera, but it's a still frame, and it's it doesn't show the impact. It just shows that them in the power stance with their foot down.
And all the goons are on the ground and
flying backwards as they've been hit by the force of 10 freight trains. It's what the
Yeah, it's really weird. I don't really care for it. I get that stylistically they want to make it feel unique or something, but it's
stylistically they want to use one frame instead of animating a bunch of other ones.
Let's not get into the weeds here. So from there we have, Chai's in the water now. Will he make an appearance again? I don't know. Because there's a whole, weird thing where this part of the story is Chapter 1, technically.
Yeah.
Chapter 2 is exclusive to a comic book.
Of course.
And it's when Ryo is on the boat going to Hong Kong, and Chai somehow is on the boat again, and he fights him again, and he knocks him into the ocean.
Again.
Yeah. And then it's just crazy because then Chai shows up in the third game. It's my guy was in the middle of the ocean.
He's a survivor.
He's fucking Jaws in James Bond. It's he just keeps showing up, and I sort of love that.
That's awesome.
But are we gonna see that? Probably not. I think they're gonna focus more on Hong Kong, but that's just more of a if you enjoyed Chai, then maybe check out that comic.
Huh.
So from there. Guizhang's I can't travel, and Rio's well, you know what, I think it's for the best that you stay with your dad anyways, because y'all clearly got some issues you gotta work out, and
that whole don't ever fucking call me dad.
Don't call me dad, you little shit. And so they sort of have a moment though where he's I thought you would have wanted to leave even with your hobbly leg. And he's nah.
Gimpy, get on the boat, Gimpy. Fucking come with me, bitch. I saw that shit. Those pipes didn't hurt. Just shut up.
You're just punking out. But he's nah, I want to stay, like, because I am my father's son. And it's like,
Master Chen's like, didn't I fucking tell you?
So, they have a little moment together, and then they watch, and it's just weird, like, how he's holding Gui Zhang is just sort of weird. He's holding him like a man would hold, like, a woman. Like, he's doing one of these things, and I'm like, it's weird because they don't do that in the game. That's just something I noticed, and I was
Don't judge them. What they have is beautiful.
I don't like this dynamic that we're building up. That's why I don't want him to.
He's
call
harsh
him Dad.
with his mouth, but he's soft with his hands.
Jesus Christ. So the episode ends on Rio going off into the sunset on the boat.
Master Chen's loving
Caressing his son. So what did you think of the episode sort of overall? Like,
I thought it stunk. Like, I mean...
I'm gonna be real.
It's still not that bad, but definitely the worst episode of the series so far.
Yeah, so my whole thing is, like, throughout, on the Shenmue subreddit, there's, like, a thread after every new episode comes out to sort of discuss it, and, if you had it, just share your thoughts on it. And there's one guy who throughout has been pretty critical, and, like, for the first 3 episodes, I was like, I don't really see it. Like, I think some of these criticisms are sort of unfair, but for episodes 4 and 5, I was like, 4, I was like, okay, there's a few things I agree with, and then 5, I was like, oh, there's a lot that I agree with, and it's just a shame, because, like, that guy gets downvoted to shit, and I don't think that's fair, because it's like, it's okay to criticize things. Yeah. As fans, that's how we get things to be better, So it's like, this whole sort of, I guess, hive mind mentality that people are having with the anime. It's like, I get that we need to support it, and the guy is supporting it. He's watching it. He paid for a subscription to Crunchyroll. Like, he's doing his part.
He's commenting on the Shenmue Reddit.
He's commenting on it. Yeah, it's like, I don't know. It's a weird thing where I feel like as a community, we can maybe be a little bit better about being critical of things and being okay with that. Like, that's okay. That's how things get better. So that's sort of my take, is like, this was the weakest episode, which is a shame, because it's like, this
should have been the strongest.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, if the focus was going to be these really cool fights, then put that budget into the coolest fight in the first game, But, I don't know. That's sort of my thoughts on the episode overall. We've sort of talked about them spending as much time as they did on the side characters. Overall, you think it's a net negative in against the anime, I guess, that they focus so much on Goro and Mai?
It didn't have to be, but by just cutting it into the fight that we wanted to see, and to give them dumb bullshit that they didn't need to do. Like, oh, we gotta leave. Oh, we gotta go back now.
Yeah.
It's not the characters that I don't like. It's the shit they did and how it broke up the pace. And
yeah, because it's like, individually, I like all of those characters, but we also don't really see much of them in the game, so they don't ever overstay their welcome.
Right.
Whereas in this, it's like, Mai is sort of like, I don't know, like, tough, I guess, in the game, but she's not beating the shit out of Goro.
And we talked
every
about,
other
like,
scene, like,
obviously they condensed this entire game into 5 episodes, so obviously they had to adapt and crunch and move things around just a little bit to get it to fit and stuff. But you lose that excuse when you start putting in dumb bullshit that didn't need to be there. Yeah, when you're putting
in filler that is not from the game.
It's like, if you're on such a, if you didn't have time to do this properly, then why'd you put this stupid shit in?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's frustrating. Hopefully, that's not as big of an issue now that we have, how many episodes are left?
There's like 8 left.
Yeah, for just one more game.
Yeah.
Would you say Shenmue 2 is just that much more content than the first game?
It's separated into like 3 portions. Like, you have the Hong Kong portion, you have the Kowloon portion, and then you have him going through basically rural China with Shenhua. And I think the stuff with Shenhua realistically they could probably do that in like half an episode, because it's really just them walking and talking, and without that sort of like, because you're deciding what it is that Rio is saying as he's talking to her on this walk. Without that sort of, I guess, decision making, it wouldn't really be engaging to watch that.
Maybe they'll do one of those Bandersnatch.
No, if they don't have the budget for the fight, they don't have. But I don't know. It's gonna be. I think they could do that in like half an episode. If I'm, like maybe at one episode they could do that. But for the rest of it, it's like I think 7 episodes for Kowloon and Hong Kong. I think that's pretty. That seems like a good sort of balance for that. But
yeah, I was expecting half and half. So now that it's like 5 and 8 for the 2 games, it's like hopefully they'll be able to pace it out better and not have to come up with stupid filler to make it. I don't even understand it. I don't know why it was there. I don't know what the creators thought that would benefit.
Yeah, and it's a weird thing as well, because I feel like in an early interview about the anime, they said initially it was mostly going to be focused on the first game. And then as they sort of started fleshing out, I guess, their take on that world and that story, and they started delving into the Hong Kong and Kowloon portion of it, they got like way, I guess, maybe ambitious and wanted to keep going like way further. And I almost wonder if that was maybe not the best decision. And obviously we still have 8 episodes. Like, we won't know until the end of the season whether or not it was a good or bad thing in the end that they decided to condense 2 games into a single season of anime. But it'll be interesting to see sort of where we go from here. But one other thing I would like to talk about is what I think is one of the biggest elephants in the room, and that is the music. The fucking opening theme is a total banger. I agree with that.
Yeah.
But all the other songs, why didn't you just use the ones from the game? You have this incredible orchestral suite with so many amazing songs that fit the moments and the story beats that they happen during. So why not just use them?
It adds that element of like the story is bigger than just Ryu doing a grocery list of errands. It's like the Chiyu men want to bring whatever fucking shit they want to bring about with the mirrors, and Lan Di is doing I don't know what, and it's a destiny and it's a prophesized event. That the music really brings that, makes it feel more natural that's happening in that. So without that really epic soundtrack, it's just like, that's
and
weird.
They reuse like the same songs, and like anytime there's a Nozomi scene, it's usually the same sort of slow song. Anytime there's like a action scene, it's the same song. It's like you had
my God. I'm getting so fucking sick.
Game's worth of music. You could have had a different song for every scene.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm getting so fucking sick of the theme song. Like, it's a great theme song. I love it. But it's like at the end of every single fucking episode.
And that's the thing, is like I love in the game that they use it sort of sparingly. Like, it makes it feel more impactful when they do use it. Yeah.
And it's fucking bombastic, and you're like, wow, yeah, that was a game.
Yeah.
Now, and when you play it after, like, oh, you're saying next time I have to go to the port and see if I can get a job and buy a ticket. It's like, so that's they use that way too much, and it's a great theme song.
It is, yeah.
So
yeah,
please use it sparingly, please.
Yeah.
I didn't need the Dance Bop remix.
I sort of liked that.
I mean, yeah, but like cheapens it.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. One other thing I want to touch on. They did Tom so damn dirty.
My man.
He has this great goodbye scene in the game with Rio, because throughout the sort of story, like at first he's in Yokosuka with his hot dog stand. He moves the hot dog stand to the harbor when you're in the harbor portion of the game.
For Rio?
No, I mean, he's just there selling hot dogs. But like, you sort of can keep interacting with him and asking him, questions. He doesn't really have many leads, but he does teach you a move that's pretty useful for the 70-man battle.
Hot dog slam?
No, it's a tornado kick. And it's like, he teaches him that move, and then he tells him, like, hey, I'm leaving Japan to go back to America with my family. He's like, we're both leaving Japan, at the same time, but even though we're leaving, we're still always going to be friends. And it's just sort of cool. Like, I really like in the game how it feels like Rio is a part of that town.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everyone knows who he is. Like, everyone's sad to see him go. And we really don't get that in the anime.
And guess what? That's like, it should be a big motif of Shenmue, where his father's last words were like, your friends.
Yeah.
Keep their people close to you,
Yeah.
care about them and this and that. And now that I've seen the Shenmue movie and I've seen more cutscenes, there's a part of that where he's like talking to his dad in a flashback, and his dad is like, your friends and ones that you can trust are precious. And he's like, family, we're important too, but we won't be there the whole time, but your friends will be there.
Yeah.
Love your friends. And it's like, obviously friends have a big part to play in this story.
Yeah. And like, on another sort of note with that, in the first game, Rio is like very much a part of that hometown. Like, everyone knows him. He has so many friends and stuff. So then when you go to Hong Kong in the second game and you're like a fish out of water, you don't know anyone, it's a lot more impactful because you can't just go to the store and the person's like, oh, hey, Rio, like, what's going on? Like, can I help you with anything? In this, like, in the second game, they're like, oh, I don't have time for you. Like, I don't even know who you are. Like, why would I help you?
No, it sounds like it would have that captures the, like, little town to a big city aspect. Like, oh, I'm going to college in New York. That'll be fun. Oh my God, and the culture shock.
Yeah. So, sort of jumping off on that, we did sort of briefly mention Shenmue the movie. So in addition to this week's episode of the anime, we did also watch the Japanese dub of Shenmue the movie, which is basically a collection of cutscenes from the first game that was sort of meant to catch people up before the second one. And weirdly enough, this did actually get a theatrical release in Japan. It was like a limited sort of thing, probably sort of similar to like a Fathom event.
So fucking weird.
It's just very much a product of its time in the sense that, like, when Shenmue came out, it was the cutting edge for, like, graphics. Like, that's something that I feel at the time people would have been like, they fucking have individual fingers.
I still can't even comprehend, like, if they compiled The Last of Us into a movie and that made sense and was coherent, but, like, you'd put that into a theater and people would watch that.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem like something that would happen.
Yeah, I mean, the closest thing I can think of is they did that Ratchet and Clank movie where it was like basically cutscenes from the most recent game at the time.
That's true.
Yeah, that
weirded me
out. The
out.
only thing I can think of.
I was like, I don't understand. Is it a movie? And they're like, well, yeah, but it's the game. I'm like, what do you mean it's the game? Is it the same thing? And they're like, well, no, it's the movie. I'm like, what is it? What the fuck is going on?
So now that we've wrapped up basically the first game's content, how do you sort of think things stack up between the anime and like the movie? Like, do you think one was better than the other?
It's kind of interesting. I think it's like flipped. Like the anime, the first 3 episodes when he's in town doing errands, finding stuff out, getting the Phoenix Mirror, finding the Chens, all this stuff is better in the anime, in my personal opinion.
I agree.
It flows better, the pacing's better, shit moves faster. I was pretty bored in the movie when he's like, oh, where's this? Oh, that. Ooh, that. I'm going to this bar. Like, the stuff that I'd just seen in the anime, that was interesting. It was really boring in the movie. But after you get the mirror, you get your job in the port, the whole, the scenery changes to that harbor, then it's, the anime drops off and the cutscenes are better, and, the game did it better.
Yeah,
It's kind of weird. Because I guess it's really what they did in the Harbor episodes in the anime was that they just focused too much on other characters and other plot lines so much that you forgot what the original purpose was.
Yeah.
And you're just like, what's happening? And like in the movie we watched, he's dealing with a lot more of the Mad Angels.
Yeah.
And it's building them up a lot better. Like, here's 3 guys that are trying to shake him down, and Rio, goes and fucks him up.
Yeah.
And then next time there's 5 guys that lock him in a warehouse, and they're like, yeah, let's fuck him up. And he, kicks their ass too, and it's like, all right, here's Terry, his lieutenant. Here's these guys. We're going after your family. We're getting this. We're getting your love interest. And here's 70. Like it builds it way better.
Yeah, I agree. I think just the entire sort of weird take they had on Guizhang and Rio's battle, where it's like, they just pulled one over on Terry. It's like, that's lame. Yeah. I don't like it. Like, I feel like
it makes him seem stupid. Like, Terry's not intimidating at all in the anime.
Yeah. I just, I don't know. Like, I'm in agreement. I think that, the first 3 episodes of the anime overall, I'd say, do a pretty good job of telling this story. Obviously, like, if you put, 40 hours into the game, you're going to have a more in-depth experience. But not everyone is going to want to do that, especially for a game as old as Shenmue. So I feel like it does a good job of telling that first part of the story. And then I agree, things sort of really fell off, in the 4th episode. And then the 5th episode just made the issues that were there in the 4th one a lot worse. So are there any sort of final thoughts that you have sort of before we wrap things up with this episode?
I thought I did. Oh, no. I don't really know anything about Shenmue 2. Like, I actually knew more than I thought I did about Shenmue 1 just from, like, our podcasts and talking about it. And it's, I'm, like, remembering stuff about it. But I really have no fucking idea what happens in Shenmue 2. So I'm excited to see the next part of the anime because it's going to be completely new for me. Like, I don't know any of the story beats really at all in Shenmue 2. So it'll be fun.
Yeah, I'm excited as well because aside from like some character art and then there's like a little teaser for the next episode, we haven't seen anything from this part of the story. Like all of the trailers we have up until now, like even before the anime came out, they were only Yokosuka stuff. So it's like all this stuff is going to be like fresh. So I'm excited to see, even if it's stuff that we're not going to get. Like there's obviously going to be concessions that are made and they're going to focus on weird side characters maybe more than I would like, but
and that's what's good. Like that's what I appreciate now is like even though this episode kind of stunk up the end for the first game, like it's not like Game of Thrones where it's just like, oh my god, it's just falling off and it fell off the fucking earth and it's over now. Yeah. Like we have another chance to restart and develop a plot and kind of start over with a new game and a new narrative, new location.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm not this quality, like the quality of this episode is not turning me off from the anime. Like I'm still, I still want to see the next episode. It was just like, that one stunk. Like, there have been shows where an episode's so bad that I just don't look forward to any of the future ones, and I'm like, nah.
Well, it's like, part of it's probably because I'm a big Shenmue fan, but it's like when we were watching The Bad Batch, and we were doing a podcast about The Bad Batch, and then they kept doing those filler episodes,
dude,
and that just completely took the wind.
I didn't want to keep watching it. Like, I wanted to do it for the podcast, but I was like, man,
I completely lost all desire to do a podcast.
And that even happened to me again with the Book of Boba Fett and with some of these. I was like,
yeah.
I don't really care enough. I'm not on the edge of my seat for the next episode, but
for sure, yeah. But that's going to sort of wrap things up for today's episode of the Boyos Discuss. If you enjoyed it and are watching on YouTube, then we'd really appreciate it if you'd like the video and subscribe to the channel. Let us know your thoughts about this week's episode of Shenmue the Animation in the comments section below. Anyways, guys, until next time.
Isn't this the Chen residence?